Science is the key because it takes the moral high ground away from them and shows them to premeditated fraudsters.
And that is the point which the Republicans have now got very, very firmly on board. There are now many senior figures in both houses, I'm not going to name names, it's not fair to them, they will go public as and when they think it right, who are very clearly understanding that the science doesn't add up anymore, that they have failed and failed and failed again on the other side to produce convincing arguments. And they are now not going to tolerate any form of cap and trade, and they've made that quite plain to the Democrats, which is
why Lord Monckton, stay there. Stay there. We got to go to break. Come back and tell us more of what the insiders told you and how you see the eugenicists, the feudal lords striking back at us on the other side. Lord Christopher Monckton, 3rd Viscount of Brenchley and Monckton, is our guest. Scienceandpublicpolicy.org is the key website to see the actual science, the research on what these globalists are up to. Now, this is a short segment. Coming back, we're going to get Lord Monckton's take on BP and Obama publicly blocking the relief efforts. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. We're going to get into some counterattacks against him, which are actually opportunities for us to show the fraud. But finishing up with your travel around the country, the Tea Parties, talking to Congress, legislatures, you're saying you're seeing a real shift.
A real shift in opinion on the Republican side. Of course, the Tea Party movement doesn't believe in the global warming nonsense, and now the Republicans are beginning to realize that they have to tackle the science, they can't ignore it, they have to take the moral high ground away from these creeps, and they're beginning to do it. They're beginning to get into the science, they're beginning to ask questions of the administration that the administration either can't answer or is answering in a way which we can easily prove to be dishonest, and that has begun to make them realize that this is a gigantic global fraud, and they don't like the smell of it, and they're not going to pass cap and trade, even if the oil spill goes on being terrible and makes a mess of the coastline there. They're not going to give in just because of that. That is not a good excuse for rushing for cap and trade. So they're going to stand very firm on this, and there will be no nonsense. And if Obama tries to reintroduce cap and trade in the Senate, he will fail again.
But he's doing the same thing now. It's been confirmed the White House is not retracting it. Just like 2 weeks before the White House admitted it, they said, we're going to sue Arizona. And then later the White House admitted that. Now he's saying he's going to sign an executive order to just open up the borders completely, which literally is an act of treason against our sovereignty. And he's now promised to have the EPA implement a whole group of carbon taxes by dictatorial executive edict.
I know, and the more he does this, and the more the people who listen to your show and the others who point out what's going on hear this and talk to one another about it, the more certain it is that in the midterm elections he will perhaps more or less certainly lose the House. And the way he's going, he could even lose the Senate as well, though that'll be harder, I think. But he's certainly no longer going to have control of Congress. And therefore, he is increasingly being driven back on the realization that his days of passing grand legislative projects like healthcare reform are over. Cap and trade is not going to go through the Senate, and that therefore he will have to increasingly try to rule by decree, because that's what an executive order is. However, executive orders are not legislation. They can be reversed by the next incoming president overnight. And all the Republicans have to do is to say that whoever they choose as president, every single one of these high-handed executive orders will simply be cancelled by a single executive order nullifying the lot. And that will be the end of that. So the fact that he can't now control Congress means that he's becoming increasingly desperate, and the more desperate he becomes, the more he will lash out, because he is very petulant. I mean, he's behaved, if you look at the way he dismissed General McChrystal, who's a very good general, and put in General Petraeus, who is a formidable general, so at least we've now got another very good general on the spot. But that kind of behavior is calculated to demoralize your troops on the ground. Okay, so the general made some incautious remarks which weren't very polite about the administration. Just get used to it, Obama. You're in politics, and sometimes even your own troops are going to say things that maybe they shouldn't say. But if you go around sacking them just because they exercise their right of free speech and you're the commander-in-chief, well, yes, you have the constitutional power to do that, but the electorate has the constitutional power to do it to you. So Obama, because of that action against the military, because of these threats of making executive orders, because of your utter failure to deal with the BP oil spill in an efficient way, you, sir, are going to be dismissed by your commander-in-chief, which is the voters of the United States of America.
We're going to get into BP after the break, but briefly, how is the UN regrouping? I mean, we know they're trying to get cap and trade in at an even regional level, having the bureaucracy come in and, in one case, get the city of Austin to more than triple power prices in the next 3 years to pay some nebulous organization. But when we come back, but go ahead and get started now, how are they internationally regrouping right now?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Yes, we'll certainly deal with that when we come back.
And then specifically how we counter them with Lord Monckton. In the 30 seconds we've got left, tell folks some of the material that we'll learn at your website.
Right. The most important things we do are a series of scientific papers which come out at regular intervals, all written in plain language so that a layman can understand it, explaining why, on various aspects, the science of climate change is not a problem.
And it's scienceandpublicpolicy.org. It's important to learn the science, and then you'll understand the type of frauds that we're talking about. Lord Christopher Monckton's our guest. I'm Alex Jones. Infowars.com is our website. Stay with us.